Hey everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy, I'm the host of the show, and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. How was everyone's Thanksgivings? Good, I hope. Everyone ate as many mashed potatoes and rolls as I plan to eat. I am in a fit of foresight actually recording this intro before we have Thanksgiving as opposed to doing it at about midnight before the episode drops. So maybe you can hear the extra energy in my voice. But good up today. This is Stewart Bronaugh, aka Lionlimb. If you don't know who Stewart is, why don't I read you his bio right now? Originally from Nashville, Tennessee, musician Stewart Bronaugh has been playing music for a majority of his life. Professionally, he played for many years as a part of Angel Olsen's backing band, and on his own, he's been recording as Lionlimb for over a decade. They released their fantastic first EP, Turnstile, in 2016, and since then have released two more great albums, Shoe and Tape Recorder. Their most recent album, Spiral Groove, was just released in mid-November on Bayonet Records, and it's an absolute delight. Yeah, I've liked Stewart's music since I first heard Turnstile, and I was excited to talk to him. We talked a lot about Nashville and growing up there and the changes it has seen in his lifetime, sobriety. We got into a bunch of stuff. You will hear it in, let's say, 60 seconds. Let's put 60 seconds on the clock. Start the clock. Dun 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 dun. Everyone loves a Bill Maher reference. That guy's really got his finger on the pulse of the zeitgeist. Anyway, if this is your first time listening to Beginnings, thank you for checking out the show. What I like to do here in the beginning is a little recommended if you like. If you like this interview with Stewart, maybe you'll like some other ones I've done recently with other musicians. Indigo D'Souza, David Thomas of Pure Ubu, Night Jewel, Lou Barlow, Ian Mackay, and plenty of other musicians, writers, performers, comedians, actors. So if you like what you hear and you want to subscribe to the show, you can do that wherever you get your podcast from. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Andy Beckerman. I got a lot of great interviews coming up, so stay tuned, including just talked to Wendy Eisenberg, who's a wonderful, what'd you call, avant pop? Sure, let's go with avant pop musician. And speaking of avant pop, I suppose I could throw John Vanderslice in there. That was an incredible talk, and I'm very excited for you to hear that one. And 12th anniversary is coming up soon, and I got a special one for that. So stay tuned for those. But for now, let's talk to Stewart. Maybe I should not have listened to an interview when I was on the exercise bike right before we started talking. Interview with a sci-fi author who writes very realistic science fiction about what the world will look like after climate change and like how.
Oh shit! So you're in like the place that I'm in when I watch Black Mirror and then I can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
I had to stop watching that because it was fucking me up.
Yeah. And also I bought a book over the weekend called How to Blow Up a Pipeline or How to Destroy a Pipeline. I forget the exact name of it. But it gives a kind of moral argument for destroying property that not killing anyone, but destroying property that is directly contributing to climate change.
Well, it's either doing that or trying to push legislation, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's bleak.
Yeah. You're younger than me, so I wonder if it's a more urgent thought for you than it is for me. Like, my wife and I just decided, we're not going to have children, so, that's it.
It definitely, since I've been living in a city, it definitely has been, just because I think you see the effects of it more. Like, I think when you're like living out in, say, like a more rural area, you know, the climate change is kind of just like this idea, you know, and you don't see anything like right in front of you. But definitely living in cities has made it like very real and in your face. But I guess, I mean, now it's like, I mean, like our basement flooded, and that's our bedroom, and also going to be our nursery because me and my partner are having a kid.
Oh, congrats.
And thanks. And yeah, I've actually spent like the last 4 days removing like 2 feet from 2 feet of the floor up because it's all mold infested. And you know, that right there is just like, it's just like in your face. From Ida and stuff. And yeah.
I mean, this is the other thing that I think of a lot lately, that my dreams were formed in a world where we didn't have a kind of like existential threat like climate change hovering over us. Like, we kind of knew, like, I grew up in the 80s I was like a kid in the 80s into the 90s. And you knew that there was something going on, but it wasn't as dire and it wasn't as immediate as it feels now. And so I was allowed to develop existentially into someone who wanted to be creative for a living.
Yeah.
Do this for a living. And I mean, I don't know. You seem like you're younger than me. Are you in your like 20s, maybe early 30s, somewhere around there?
30. I'm 32. I just turned 32. Yeah. I feel like after 30, it's just, well, I don't know. I've always kind of been like, I always feel like I'm like 18.
Yeah. But, no, me too. I feel very young all the time. I don't feel like and maybe it's just because like I take care of myself and I moisturize and I don't do much that's bad.
Do you wear sunscreen?
I do wear sunscreen.
I think that's the ticket.
Yeah, I also avoid the sun. I've said before that like here, living here in Los Angeles, I feel like I'm Gollum because I'm constantly just like jumping from shadow to shadow.
Yeah,
and like hissing at the sun.
I'm kind of the same way, but it's easier here.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, I'm not from New York, but I lived there for 10 years.
Nice.
And it's just like, you know, it's so easy just to walk in the shade the whole day. But my question for you is, you know, you're 10 years younger than me, and I'm wondering if it was difficult to come to a decision about, you know, career things, either morally or existentially, you know, when it's maybe a little more apparent, like the direction the world is going in.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, I grew up in the 90s too, you know, so like, I think I'm a little behind that curve, but I mean, it is like when I was like in my early 20s, I didn't think about it as much. And like, that's kind of when I started playing music. But like, I mean, especially now, and even when I was like playing in other bands and touring a lot, like I wasn't even really thinking about it. I think probably for a variety of other reasons, but I mean, yeah, it's like, I mean, even just going on tour seems, you know, like a bad thing to do to contribute, you know, and yeah, I mean, I'm not contributing anything by playing music.
Well, but, no, that wasn't that wasn't the direction I'm going in. I do think there is a argument to be made that we definitely need arts, and we need all the various arts.
I
Maybe
will
not
say
TikTok.
I will say that I think as far as music can be very environmentally friendly. I mean, a lot of like, at least art that I have tried to make, like visual art, has not, not been. And that's probably just a large part because I didn't make an effort to make it eco-friendly. But, it's like when you're like screen printing or like making shirts, it's like you create, quite a bit of waste. And I mean, that's something that even kind of like stresses me out now. Like even just making vinyl records, like having vinyl records printed is, that's like pollution, I actually, my friend owns a record label in Nashville, and he had a bunch of vinyl that he was trying to get rid of, and I looked into, there's a plant in Nashville, United Record Pressing, and me and my partner looked into trying to recycle vinyl records. Like if there was a way, you could take vinyl, melt it down, and then press new records from that, But I guess something happens in the process where you can't like reuse it, which is a bummer. So, but yeah, I have like, boxes of CDs and vinyl and
Yep.
shirts, and it just like, it stresses me out so much. I mean, even for this record that is coming out, I really like my label a lot, but they were like, they wanted to like make posters and to send to record stores and stuff, and it's like, yeah, it definitely like consumes my daily thought process more and more today. Like, and I think part of that is because, we're like, reaching or have already reached the boiling point, but also just living in a city, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's just tough, I think, to have your dreams form in one era and then the world changes and you have to like think like, all right, am I just going to like do something I don't want to do for the rest of my life, but that is maybe helpful in the long run? Or like, I don't know, I don't think you can quantify art. This is why I'm kind of like curious about these kinds of things. And also like curious when I talk to people who are younger than me by like a decade or so, to see like how have these things changed for you, especially like growing up in an era that was maybe a little more conscious about these moral issues than the era the era I was raised in was psychopathic, like outright. It was the Reagan era. It was fucking psychotic to grow up in the 80s.
I don't know. I mean, I think like when I was like, I'm trying to think like before I really started thinking about it, and like in my 20s, I guess, like unfortunately I really don't think I thought that much about it. I think I was just like doing drugs and like getting fucked up is like all I wanted to do. And skateboarding. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is like even a question for someone a decade younger than me,
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we can kind of get to there through this stuff, because I am curious, because I, again, grew up in the 80s, the Dare era, Dare to Resist, right? I really grew up in an era that I was like and plus the AIDS era, scared of everything, scared of drugs, scared of sex. It all was kind of like terrifying. And you grew up in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about just what Nashville is like. It seems like such an interesting place now. I don't know if it was interesting when you were a kid.
I would say maybe the opposite of that. I mean, growing up, I wasn't like, oh man, this place rules. But like, since I left, I kind of realized how special it is. But I mean, now it's like, now it's like, I mean, it's kind of like what's happening to a lot of like smaller cities, but like I feel like now it's just like the like bachelorette Instagram capital. That's like what it's becoming. You don't see that?
I don't know much. I don't know anything about it. I've never seen The Bachelorette. I don't know much about Nashville. I don't know if I could say this, but like well, I'll say the Vegas thing. I have a gig right now where I'm writing something for a country music star who lives in Nashville.
Oh.
And that's my first really, like investigating the city to write this thing for him is the first time I've ever really paid much attention to Nashville. So it seems like it's like I don't know. I don't know what it seems like. Just from looking at it, it looks kind of like glitzy and glamoury and like country music-y.
Yeah. Like when I was growing up there, it just, I think I'm probably biased because like, growing up it was one thing, and then every time I would go home, like after I left, like it was just always changing and like so different, and like, places that I used to love getting torn down, and like, like denim shops, opening up, like where they sell jeans for like, $200 or whatever. But I actually lived there for a year, like during the pandemic. We just went back to Nashville because we had like basically like a free place to stay for a year. And it was actually really nice. But we were close to downtown, and it's like, it's like the bachelorette party capital. And
sorry. Wow, I'm gonna really know that listeners listening were like, he meant bachelorette parties.
Oh, bachelorette party. Oh, The Bachelorette, the show.
I thought you were talking about the TV show, The Bachelorette. No.
I do like The Bachelorette, actually.
That's just where my brain went. So
yeah.
So it's just bachelorette parties. And
it's like all the buildings have like murals on it with like the wings painted, and there's like girls like lined up to like take their Instagram photo there, and it's becoming very white, like more than it was when I grew up there. And like Amazon bought 2 city blocks or something downtown, and it's like they're moving there. And it just seems like a lot of people are moving there. I think because there's no state income tax. So I'm like probably not the best person to ask because I'm from there. So I'm like maybe a little jaded about what Nashville has become. But
no, well, I mean, that's I do want your take on it, even if it is, as you say, jaded. It doesn't seem jaded to me from what you described. But okay, why don't we start with what was the Nashville of your youth? Like when you were growing up there, what was it like? Do you remember stories about things you did? That general kind of thing.
Like as a little kid, or like middle school, or like high school?
Whatever jumps out to you when I ask that question.
I mean, high school was like, high school was pretty cool. Like, I don't know, like my like best friend and I would always like hang out like on the railroad tracks, like the CSX cargo train that would like go through town. Like we had like a little like secret place by his house that we would go down there, and like we made a rope swing and like a tree house and stuff. And we would just like hang out down there. We built like we tried to build like a concrete skate park in the woods next to the train tracks, but we quickly realized how difficult that was and how much concrete we needed. Like, we were carrying these like 80-pound bags of concrete like down, you know, into the woods. But I don't know. I guess like just as a whole, Nashville just had more character, I guess. Just like, I don't know, a little bit more grit, maybe. I mean, I remember like there's a skate park downtown that my parents would always drop me off at, and me and like some of my friends at the skate park would always leave and just go skateboard around downtown and just like exploring and stuff. And it wasn't, I mean, there was like the strip of have you been there?
No.
There's like the strip of Broadway, which is like, you know, where all the honky tonk bars are, which is pretty fun to do. Like, I definitely did that. Just like going from, I mean, I don't drink anymore, but when I did, it was pretty fun. But that was like the only kind of like touristy part of it, but it was still kind of like grungy and stuff, you know? And, you know, now it's just, I don't know what the word is to like, it's like every
Las
neighborhood.
Vegas.
I don't know if it's Las Vegas. It's like things like neighborhoods are just getting torn down, and like these we call them the tall and skinnies, like the tall and skinny houses, you know. They'll tear down a house and then put up two tall and skinnies, and everything just kind of like looks like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's the same thing that in my mind is happening to like New York, right? Where like all of the cool like businesses or like the buildings that have like unique architecture are all being torn down, and they're putting in like Bank of Americas and things like that instead.
Yeah.
Like when other music shut down, when it closed down, and when like a bunch of other places closed down in New York, it really bummed me out because I'm like, oh, this, you know, walking around like the East Village, it doesn't have the same. It's still cool and better than like where I grew up, but it doesn't have the same kind of feeling it used to have even 10 years ago when I moved to New York.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so it kind of just like a gentrification, like a leveling. I call it leveling. Like it's, instead of there being character, it flattens. Everything's flattened, and it's just like it's all the same.
Yeah, it's like all the same like construction material, like cheap construction materials, buildings built as cheaply as possible, and they kind of like all look the same. Yeah, I mean it's a bummer because like I mean like that is all built. I mean that whole industry is like run off like profit, you know, rather than like actually making something that's like sturdy. Because like it's funny because like those new buildings are like really shitty, like you know what I mean. Even the place that we're in now, like it's kind of like, you know, a new buildy kind of place, and it's just like I'm kind of just realizing like the newer a place is, probably like the worse it's gonna be in some ways, you know, because it hasn't been tested, like, you know, tested over decades against the elements, and two, because it's just like cheap materials, cutting corners. But it's like a feeling, you know, like in Nashville, it's like that feeling every time I go home is like there less and less, you know, and it's like dive bars shut down, like punk venues shut down, you know, this place that the pizza place that used to have shows shut down. I mean, it I guess it happens everywhere.
Yeah, no, there's an ebb and flow, but I think there's something particular about this era of like hypercapitalism. There's this era of of investment banker. What's actually fueling this? Just kind of like speculative energy that's fueling the destruction of the old. It's that it used to be like that kind of stuff would go away, but then a new like punk venue would show up, right? Like, oh, we're not doing shows in this person's basement, but we're going to do shows in this other person's basement.
Yeah.
It feels like all of that stuff is just going away, period. In place of like this kind of flimsiness, the speculative fueled flimsiness.
Speculative. It's like everything is like held up on speculation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to collapse in our lifetime. And that's what's kind of like, I mean, not to bring us back to the doom and gloom that my brain naturally brought us to in the beginning, but like it is that kind of feeling. And that's why I'm kind of curious about these places, especially like iconic places, or maybe it's iconic now, and it was less iconic when you were growing up.
No, it was definitely iconic. I mean, it was like, Music Row with like all the recording studios and stuff, and like the Gibson Guitar Factory and, but wait, what were you just saying about it being iconic?
Well, no, I was just curious about like, did you grow up with that feeling? Because I'm kind of curious if that's what put the spark in you to want to play music.
I mean, I think about it a lot, because it's like something I do every day, and I'm like, why do I do this? Like, I try to like come up with a good answer for that. But I feel like, I mean, I was the youngest of 4 kids, and I think one big thing was like my brother, he's 6 or 7 years older than me, and he played drums and he played in bands and stuff, and his friends, like our house was kind of the house that like his friends all hung out at. So there were like there's always these like older, kids, and they were like, punk rock or whatever. And they would let me like go to their shows, and stuff with them. And so I think that kind of put the spark in me, just like seeing that at like such a young age. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty good explanation. I mean, okay, youngest of 4, what did your parents do for a living?
My mom was a nurse. So like early on, my dad was in real estate, and then like late 80s, I think he got like burned pretty bad. Some law was passed or something, and was, and went from like doing pretty good to just being totally in the toilet. And my mom was a nurse, so she was like, she was an EMT, drove ambulance, and she worked in the ER. And then my dad, that was like when I was like, my earliest, like I don't really remember that time, that's just kind of like the story that my parents have told me. But I mean, as far as music goes, my mom plays piano and guitar, a little guitar, but she plays piano. So we always had a piano in the house growing up. And my brother played drums. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't subscribe to a kind of like cause and effect thing with, people's dreams and desires and, that kind of stuff. Like, it's not like, well, my mom played music, but I do think there is something there. It's like, well, it was around, right? You have your mom, you have your brother, it's there. It's also Nashville, right? There's a city famous for music. I think that does create a beacon, right, in your future that you can kind of like, you don't have to go towards it, but you're like, oh, that's there.
Yeah, for sure. I also kind of feel like I don't know. Sometimes, like, looking back, I'm like, there's no way that I would have, like, done anything else. Like, I didn't really, like, I don't know, like, I mean, I guess it becomes, like, a issue of, like, free will or something, but it's like, it really was, like, I feel like a message that was given to me over and over that, like, this is a powerful thing, and this is, like, this is the best way to explore the world and meet people and, like, have fun.
Mm-hmm. Is that something you want to do, get out of Nashville?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like every kid, wants to leave or most kids want to leave where they're from.
Maybe. I mean, I think about these iconic cities, and it seems like it's like I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania. There's not much there. Pretzels, white power groups. It's not like there's not much else there for me. And every city I went to seemed like there was a ceiling on what there was a limit to what my ambitions could achieve, right? So I was in Pittsburgh because I went to college there. Then I was in Philly because I went to grad school there. And every city there, I like hit up against like what the limits of what I could do in that city until I got to New York. And finally, and even New York, there were limits, especially, in terms of like TV writing and stuff like that. The industry is out here in Los Angeles, and
right.
So, like, but I think about something like Nashville, New Orleans, Chicago. There are cities that are fairly robust and interesting and have character.
Yeah. Maybe it was just like I wanted to get out of the South. I went to Chicago. Like, I lived in Chicago for 6 years after high school. I went to DePaul for a couple years in college. But I think it was, like wanting to leave the South maybe more than like wanting to leave Nashville. I don't know.
I mean, did you gel with Southern culture?
Did I gel with Southern culture?
Did it feel? Yeah, I know that's a weird way of saying. I don't know why my brain produced the question in that way, but I meant more like, did it feel like weird to you in the South? Because you don't come off as overly Southern.
Big time. I mean, like, like my dad is very, very conservative, and I love my dad.
Sure.
He's he's from the South, and my grandfather used to say he was a Southern. My grandfather would say that they were Southern country Baptists. So, it's like that's ingrained in my dad. And so, my dad is pretty, like Christian and conservative. And yeah, I mean, I pretty much like tried to like rebel against like everything growing up. So I mean, yeah, like they made me like go to Sunday school class and like go to church and shit like that. And so I guess that like aspect of Southern culture I didn't really gel with. Yeah. And school I didn't really like. Any like authority, I was pretty had issues with authority.
Yep, I get that.
So wanting to leave Nashville, I think it was just like I want to like, I don't know, I just always wanted to like go and like live in a bigger city, and I don't know, like I think like the anonymity of like a bigger city always appealed to me growing up. I'm definitely still like, I still enjoy, you're not just like under a microscope all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I like fading into the crowd too. Well, I mean, I have this like constant contradiction in me, at least, of wanting to fade to the crowd and also wanting to be the center of attention.
Same.
So
I'm the same way.
It's very difficult dialectic to navigate. But I'm kind of curious about, like, when you say, like, you're anti-authority in that way, you know, were there times, you know, was there anything specific that you did? Was it just, like, general rebellion? You know, do you remember a specific time where you, like, pushed back against something?
I remember one time at church camp. I went to a church camp that I actually got kicked out of. But my brother had the Simpsons book, and so I had been reading that before I went. But I remember, like, at church camp, we were talking about how Jesus was like a carpenter, and, you know, like, I guess their point was that, like, that wasn't a very good job or something, which is weird. But we, like, all went around the circle and said, what is a job that we, you know, we're thankful that we don't have to do? It's a weird Southern Christian activity, but and my answer, and I got this from the Simpsons book, but I said a janitor at an adult movie theater. So I was just, like, always, I don't know, trying to make people upset.
Yeah, sure.
In those situations.
Sure, I could understand how the counselors might react to hearing that you wanted to clean up jizz for a living.
Yeah. But, like, also that's kind of like a good answer that, you know, that's not a job that you would want to have, right?
Sure. I mean, it's a living. I suppose if there are going to be adult theaters, you need someone to clean them. Like,
True.
It's meaningful work. I mean, maybe not the most meaningful, but, you know.
True. I mean, I've probably cleaned up jizz before.
Sure.
I've definitely cleaned up shit and throw up. But I'm sure I've cleaned up jizz without knowing it.
Sure, most humans probably have. Yeah. I mean, look, I actually kind of want to push into not this part, but the kind of Christianity that is disparaging the central figure, saying, like, who wants to be a carpenter? First of all, carpenter seems like a very good job to me. I don't know about you, but I'm just like, yeah,
same.
I'm not good at woodworking, but I enjoy it when I've had to do it in the past. And I enjoy, like, again, I'm going to put this word in front of it, meaningful manual labor. Like, there is, like, you know, I had to, like, fix some of the, like, insulation on the air conditioner.
Oh man, it's the most rewarding work. It feels incredible to do.
Yeah.
And looking back, that's why I was like, I thought it was such a weird exercise, because they were basically inferring that, like, that's a job that we wouldn't want to have to do.
Yeah. Well, that's what I want to kind of, like, push into. How is this, like, Southern Baptist? I don't, again, know much. I mean, is this, like, evangelical?
No. This was Catholic, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I grew up going to mass, like, Catholic.
Mm-hmm. Like a mega church?
No, not one of those. Those are crazy, though. We definitely have those. They're, like, outside of town a little bit, but those are like the Rock Band church. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are wild. I've never been, but no, we went to, like, a cathedral downtown, and I actually, like, I liked it. Like, I liked being in it, like, being in the cathedral. It's, like, beautiful, and it, like, sounds amazing, and there's, like, a huge pipe organ, you know, like, it's pretty cool. And the community aspect of it, you know, but it's just, like, the judginess of it, and all that, I couldn't get behind.
Yeah, no, I asked that because it seems like, you know, the idea of, like, not making fun of, I can't think of the exact word I want, but disparaging, let's just go with that. The job of the central figure of Christianity seems to me like very prosperity gospel type stuff. And as opposed to like I would say the traditional understanding of who Jesus was and what Jesus's message was. And I could see why maybe you would push against someone who, like, me as a Jew, a fairly atheist Jew, I still like the message from the New Testament. I still am like, I'm down with that. It seems like it's just about being a good person and loving your neighbor and all that kind of stuff. I can get down with that. I can see why you might want to rebel against someone distorting that.
Yeah, and I think totally, and I think that's unfortunately like what a lot of religion has become, is like a distorted and also like weaponized version of it to, do something else, whether it's like, homophobia or, like genocide. It's like, it's taking something that, I mean, if it's like, it's something that's been like passed down from generations of like, like you were saying, just like, good values, and then it being weaponized to, to judge people. And like, there's a lot of like shame wrapped up, especially in Christianity, which I don't know. I never understood, and I still don't really.
I mean, did that get into you when you were a kid? Were there people reinforcing those feelings of shame? Did you feel shame?
I mean, I'm sure I did, but I don't think from like church people. I was just like, you guys are insane.
Okay, so you were pretty resilient then. Like, it wasn't like whatever their message was like fucking with your head in some way. You were definitely just...
No, I would always try to like come up with like questions that I could ask like my Sunday school teacher that would like trip her up,
Such as?
I just remember like trying to like find like the hardest question I could ask. You know what I mean? I don't know, or like push their buttons somehow.
Right. Did you fight with your parents a lot because of this?
Yeah, I mean, not fight, but like argue, like, because I really didn't want to go to church, but like they made me, So I mean, yeah, of course, yeah, definitely.
But even in general, just your dad being kind of Southern and conservative, did you push against that when you were younger?
Definitely. It's funny now because like my mom like has left the church. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird, Yeah.
No, because I'm curious about like the stuff that like propels you out of Nashville, and if that's like one of these things that pushes you away from this place,
Yeah, I think
I have to. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, anything that anyone tries to like force onto me, I've always just like, probably to a fault, just like push back harder, Yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, I'm just curious about like how this stuff shows up in your music too, or how it shows up in like your attitudes towards writing music or, performing or anything like that.
Well, I definitely have a self-destructive side, which I think probably comes out in music, maybe less so now, but like, I mean, my last record was 6 songs and all the songs were like 8 minutes long, so it's just, that's not like, it's like intentionally trying to go against the grain. But I don't know. I mean, I think playing music is like, that's why I wanted to be in a band. Is like, it's, no one's telling you like what you have to do or what to play. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's like freedom. It's like, it's the same with skateboarding or any like visual art. It's just like total freedom. And well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, actually, I always had a real issue playing on sports teams. I don't know if you did growing up.
No. I mean, just with my friends.
Yeah. You weren't on any teams.
No, I'm short. I'm small. Like, there was never, it seemed like I was biologically out of the running to play sports for my school or anything, just from my physiology. So it didn't even seem to be, it never occurred to me.
Well, did you never had to do it?
In gym class. And again, like, I like playing basketball, but with my friends. I don't, there's no way I could go out for the team. I once, in college, my friends and I were at the gym playing basketball, and there was like a member of Pitt's basketball team who had like hurt his leg and he was recovering, and even injured playing with us. I'm like, oh, okay. This is the difference between just fucking around and someone who's like on the pathway to being a professional basketball player. Like, it wasn't, it was like I was like a toddler playing with an adult. Like, that's basically. So yeah, no, it was never. So yeah, I've never played for, like, I've never had a coach.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I think the coach and the uniform is just like, it's like another thing that I was forced to do and, had to try to rebel against. And yeah, like high school, I was on the bowling. We had to do one athletic thing, and I was on the bowling team, which was actually pretty sweet.
Sure.
Because it was just like, we got to go bowling for free with all of our friends after school. But yeah, I think the athletic pushed me to skateboarding, because skateboarding is like, it's just you, and you can make your style whatever you want. And yeah, the uniforms were hard for me, the coaches, the church camps and church school.
Mm-hmm. You're painting me a picture.
Yeah, and also being the youngest of four, I think when you're the youngest, you just like, you get older faster or something. Do you have any siblings?
I have a younger sister, so I'm the oldest, so I'm not sure I get it exactly.
Like, I mean, it's like I was always hanging out with my siblings' friends, And like, we're all close in age and we're all close and stuff. And it was like, so there's always all these older kids around, and, I was like friends with all of them. And so I just like always had this feeling like I was like ready to like skip steps, and just like move on. So yeah. I don't know how that ties into the sports and church, but it's
you don't like having authority placed on you. You want to do things the way you want to do them. I understand that. I resonates with me. I'm kind of curious that, when you go to play music and you're in a band, right, you necessarily have to deal with other people in a band and other people.
That's a huge problem for me. It really is. Like, the last band I was in, I quit because I wanted to do my own thing, which was, probably a naive decision. But that's just like, I guess, who I am. And, even my band now, like, our my approach to music, I think, is hard on those relationships. I was talking to Josh, who he plays drums, and we like recorded all the records and stuff together, and like kind of realized like he enjoys music because it's like a communal thing that you can like get together and like, share these experiences with people. And I like that side of it too. Like that's the side of like playing shows, and it's like a fun social thing. But as far as actually like making the music, like I have realized recently that I really like the like isolation of it, and like just like being able to do whatever I want, and like I'm not very good at communicating. I think that's another reason why I'm kind of drawn to it. But like, even when I try and communicate with bandmates when we're like working on an arrangement or something, it's not easy for me. And so more and more, it's just kind of like something that I'm doing alone. But I like that about it. It's like, I mean, I think everybody needs that. Like, whether it's like cooking or, writing or playing basketball, it's just like, like an escape where it's like you enter this like flow state.
I was literally going to say that because it made, you talking about that made me think of like when you want, I think part of the like rebellion, and you tell me if this is what it was for you, but part of rebelling against authority is you can't get into it's very difficult at least to get into the flow state of making something when you have someone imposing something on you, whether that something is religious beliefs or just telling you what to do in general. It's difficult. You have that thing pushing on you and you can't enter the flow state easily.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I like creating things, and it's hard for. I mean, some people I think operate really well that way. Like, I think some people, really like having instruction and are able to thrive in that, and that's cool. Like there's no right or wrong. I think it's just like how you're wired, It's like,
sure.
Some people, I think if they're given total freedom, they freak out and they don't know what to do with it, And, but when they're given instruction, they're like, oh yes, I can make something and do something. And it's just like, I think it's just, being wired differently or something. Well,
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is this something that you it's naturally the way your brain works, or do you think you develop this way in relation to the conservative culture that was around you? I mean, in my mind, it's kind of like, oh, you have this conservative Christian culture around you, but also you have this, you see a different pathway through your brother. That's it.
Probably like a little bit of both. I mean, I think like being the youngest person in a family of 6 people, there's like so much craziness going around all the time. And it's just like, I probably got like really good at just like tuning out, like I can just like, I'm really good at just tuning out, and I can just like focus on one thing for like hours and hours and hours, So, I mean, I think some of that is how you're wired, That's like hyper focus or whatever. And then just on top of that, I guess it just how you're raised is how you apply that,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because, I find your music to be very... I was thinking this earlier today. I was going to say British, but I guess what I really mean by that is there's something like methodical about it. Like if you were someone who was pushing against authority, it might be a little more like,
I know what you mean. Definitely.
Free
I mean,
jazz. I don't really mean
yeah,
free
yeah,
jazz,
yeah.
but
No,
like
no,
something like that, as opposed to like, I find your songwriting, there's a kind of methodology to it.
Definitely. And yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like I always have like verse, pre-chorus, chorus, outro or whatever. Like it's very like I try to write like I mean, except for the last album, like it's like pop songs. But I guess it's like trying to distort that or subvert that, pop song structure. Because I love pop music, and I don't know why I don't just make like noise or something like that. I guess because there's like a part of me that's like competitive or something, and I want to like, I want it to reach people, and yeah.
Interesting. I was almost going to say that, like, so, I mean, I feel some kind of, again, resonance with you, because I do think then you have this kind of thing that's in me, which is like, there's a traditional kind of feeling, but you're also like, you're bouncing back and forth between like wanting to have structure, or like having, not just wanting to, but having structure, but also like rebelling against that, or maybe even resenting the fact in some way that you have to.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm like always contradicting myself internally. I feel like I'm like always, wanting the thing that I don't have and not have it, like, I mean, like, well, kind of one thing you were saying is like part of you wants to, fade into the background noise of being anonymous, and then the other part of you wants recognition, and I'm definitely like constantly caught in between those two places. I don't know. I guess I just feel like everybody is that way, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's maybe easier for other people.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like when I've had a job, I'm like, fuck, I hate this job. Like, I don't want a job. And then when I don't have a job, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I had a job. Like, I think I need a job.
Yep.
Or like when I was on tour, I'd be like, oh, I just want to be home. And then when I'm home, I'm like, oh, I really wish I was on tour. Or even like hanging out with people. It's like, I just want to be by myself and like working on something. And then when I'm alone, I'm like, I want to hang out with some people.
Yeah, very familiar. Very familiar.
I wonder what that is. Is that ADD?
I don't know what it is for you specifically. I think it is for me, it's definitely this restlessness.
Yeah.
And that and a hope that like that some new context is going to bring about something,
cure you. it'll cure all of your needs.
Yeah, or just like like happiness in a way that maybe not happiness, but just fulfillment or something. Like, I'm going to, like, if I go to a party, I'm going to meet someone and they're going to open a door for me in this industry. And then I go to the party and it's like, it's nice, it's pleasant, it's friends, but like that thing that in the back of my head, like when I was younger, it would be like, oh, I'm going to go to a party because I can meet a woman there.
Yeah.
Right. That was the thing propelling me to go to a party. And you get there and there's no one that you're really attracted to or whatever, but your friends are there, so you hang out with them, and it's nice and pleasant. But there's this, I think, an expectation that there's going to be something there that will fulfill you in some way.
Yeah. Or get you to like another level.
Yeah. And then when it isn't, you're just like, oh, I just want to be home working on, whatever the script I'm working on or something.
Yeah. I think that actually is like, that's like, I feel like capitalism, like ingrained in us, is like, it's like always just like looking to tomorrow, like, well, tomorrow is a new day, and it can, but it like, I've been trying to get better at like just enjoying the moment and like being present,
Yeah.
It's like a constant thing to do.
Struggle.
But but it's a good like thing to try to do. I mean, yeah.
Final question. This is something you said earlier, and I'm kind of curious about. But you said you stopped doing drugs at some point. I don't know if you just stopped doing it because you didn't want to, or if you got sober or whatever. But I'm kind of curious about your creative process, or not even the process, but just like, how did you change through like stopping that?
Well, stopping, it took a while to feel creative again, actually. After there's this thing that like people talk about, like the pink cloud, I think is what they call it. Like after you get sober, it's like a honeymoon.
The euphoria, right?
With sobriety, and then like that kind of fades, and you're like, oh shit, life is actually still kind of hard. So, I mean, for like pretty much all of my 20s, I was like getting fucked up. So I think it took a little while to learn, or just, I don't know, get used to not living that way. And, just in the last few years, I've started to feel a lot more creative and motivated and stuff like, I don't know, like, like you always hear like, like John Coltrane like coming off of heroin and then like making the greatest album ever. It's like immediate. But I feel like for me it was like, I think it was just like a few years of just kind of reorganizing everything. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, was there an album, or like, did you start Lionlimb after you got sober?
No. I mean, I guess I got sober in the end of 2016. So, I mean, the first record came out at the beginning of 2016, and but before then, when I was like working on the first record, like I had stopped doing drugs, but I was drinking a lot. I just replaced the drugs with alcohol,
Right.
Right. So yeah. But when contrary to popular belief, taking drugs does not make you make good music. I think. So yeah, I don't know, the process. I don't think the process has really changed. I think it's just my mindset of not being hungover.
And of reorganizing, getting reacclimated to the world.
Reacclimated, yeah, exactly. That's the word.
Stu, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun. This is my first podcast ever.
Really?
So yeah.
How'd you feel about the experience?
Good. I mean, I like this style because it's like a conversation, Everything I've pretty much done before has been like somebody emails you some questions and then you answer them. So yeah, I dig it. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bio, 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 bio.